Hello, everyone. Exactly 8 years ago today, one of the most deadliest, one of them, and also one of the most dramatic storms that ever formed in the Atlantic, formed as a tropical storm. Hurricane Sandy. I think we all know what storm this is. But Sandy became a superstorm and it collided with two low pressures and the jet stream and became a colossal superstorm. Oh, yeah, pretty big, and it lasted until like November. Um, Now it formed near Jamaica in the eastern part. Uh, Technically, it moved on the eastern part of Cuba and then went over the Bahamas, where it kind of started to collide with things. I will show you it, like the thing from the National Weather Service, the video that they did a while back on Sandy, its path, the whole satellite imagery. But the whole thing was that Sandy was one of those storms that it was very unusual track. It went through Cuba, Category 3, stayed as a Category 1 right before landfall. It turned to post-tropical, but it had a lot of wind with it. Um, Now I live here, and when Sandy came, we had winds gusting upwards of like 80 miles per hour. Um, Now look at this. Guys, this is over the time of the days that went on. This was like the projected path, so that was like the first track. That was the second, that was the third, and then the fourth day it was pretty accurate. And then you see these tracks that showed what was gonna happen. And we think we all know what happened from there on out. Sandy turned into a beautiful storm on the satellite, but not beautiful for anywhere on the coast, the East Coast. And also, Sandy, when it was like off the shore, 300 miles offshore of um, the whole area of North Carolina, South Carolina, and even a little bit of Florida, they were still experiencing tropical storm winds, sustained winds, and gusts up to hurricane force. So you could tell. Storm surge was up to around almost 8 feet in um, in the outer Long Island and going into Manhattan. Um, Now, stats. I'm not really good at looking at this stuff, but you get the point. You can look for this. Here's the track, kind of just cut right through Jersey. But yeah, still a lot of surge was the big factor here, and also the powerful side of the storm is where the surge is. Although the most rain was on the weaker side, so that was probably a better thing. No flooding. Let's look at this beautiful thing. As Sandy formed over um, the lower Caribbean seas, or sea, it really rapidly intensified to a Category 3 before making landfall in Cuba. Um, so at first, yeah, it was a pretty big, broad system. Um, but I should mention that Sandy was also one not to mess with. Did a lot of damage in Cuba, and definitely a couple people died in Cuba because of that storm. As Sandy moved out over the waters, it started to have an eye wall replacement cycle, but it couldn't reform. Now, I'm just going to pause the video right here real quickly. You see this trough? Sandy was later going to collide with that trough, which is a low pressure. Keep in mind, the jet stream yes. And this is where Sandy was starting to collide with the jet stream here. um, Bad scenario happening there. clouds reach all the way down to Central America, even though it was like off the in the Bahamas at this point. You really see that defined line. That's basically the jet stream trough right there. Now, Sandy was about to collide with this giant thing, and yeah, it had an exposed center, but that kind of re-wrapped around after it kind of got back into its great position. See, it was developing, and then it finally hit, and that thing was not going to shear it apart. At this point, it was not going to shear it up to pieces. Actually, just going to give it more energy. And you see how that just loves to sizzle out? Because it's taking the energy from that trough and putting it into this mega superstorm that almost was basically reaching the Arctic Circle at this point. Sandy was a humongous storm of like a 1,500 mile diameter. But you know, as it made a turn and then started to have some problems, but not a lot. But you know, for a while it covered a big portion of the East Coast. And it was also a big, humongous mess after it fell apart with all the cloud cover. It was never really a break with a superstorm of this size. So you have a storm that's this thing, and then when it falls apart, it goes back up, kind of strengthens back into a low pressure, comes back down, and then it finally sizzles away. But you see these outer clouds as it pushes back into the thing. It kind of just sits here, and then finally moves up, and then comes right back down the next week. And then you have a mess of clouds that's just sitting right over your house. There was never like a damn break in between, really. Like right here, you would never get a patch. Never. You would never get a patch. On radar, this is what it looked like on radar. Yeah, how that play out? Man, this thing sure did have some problems with it as well. Sandy did have a share fair of problems with, having 950 something millibars as it made landfall. So, yeah. And also, sorry that if the thing is lagging a little bit behind, it's just because the thing's slow, and this thing is like going one chunk of a frame per second, so can't keep up. But anyway, yep, Sandy makes landfall. Whoa. Half of the United States is crushed. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be making more of these historic videos on storms that I feel like should be mentioned. Yeah, and especially with Epsilon out there in the tropical, and right now, as I'm recording this, it's a day before Sandy has made land, was formed as a tropical storm. So I don't know if Epsilon has formed into a category 2 or it's still a cat 1. But Epsilon still has a good eye. And anyway, guys, I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys. And talk to you when Zeta forms.